guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Carter and today I'm going to be doing a calligraphy Q&A. So some of these questions have been asked repeatedly and then some of them have just been asked, a time or two, but I thought that they would be helpful to you guys. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you enjoy my channel, please do subscribe. I would love to have you join me here on my YouTube adventure. I think that's all I have to say, so let's go ahead and jump right in. I forgot my disclaimer. I am not a professional. The most frequent question that I receive is what pen I am using. I get this question on my how to do it yourself modern calligraphy. So in that video, I am using what is referred to as a dip pen. It comes in two parts, the nib and then the nib holder. I use a straight nib holder. It's just from Speedball. I got it in one of those collection packs from Michaels. The nib that I use is a 512 nib from Speedball. It's pretty much the only nib I ever use. I absolutely love it. Like, it worked for me the first time, and so haven't really ventured out from that. It works with the ink that I have, it works with my style, and so I just kind of use that one the most. That's the one I prefer. So another question I get asked often are what my favorite supplies are. So for modern calligraphy specifically, like I said, the 512 from Speedball with the straight nib holder. I love Bristol paper. I just think it works perfectly. It's nice and thick. I never get any issues with bleeding with my favorite ink, which is the Speedball black acrylic ink. I just really like that one. I can open it right up and it works with my nib. I don't have to add anything. It's just perfect. It is the one that I like. It is the only one that gives me those crisp, beautiful lines, doesn't pull, works with my nib. So yeah, that's the one I recommend, but again, just because it works for me does not mean that it will work for you. And by the way, all of those other black inks, seriously, were a bust for me. I bought them all and I cannot stand them. As far as white goes, the Winsor Newton ink has worked the best for me as far as bring it home, open it up, get your dip pen in there and start writing. It's not as opaque as I would like it to be. It's pretty opaque, but sometimes there are those moments where you can just see right through to the paper underneath and the ink gets really sheer, which I'm not a huge fan of. All the people that I follow on Instagram are really into the Dr. Martin's bleed proof white. So I'm currently working on trying that. One thing that's really cool about that ink is that you can mix it with gouache to create your own colored inks. I definitely want to try that. If you want to see that, let me know. The gold ink that I showed, the Liquitex acrylic gold ink, I got that at AC Moore. They probably carry that at Michaels too. But I did have to water that gold one down, and it is a very yellow gold. It's hard to see on white paper, but it looks beautiful on colored paper. When I need to water something down or I need to thicken an ink up, I prefer to do that in a separate container. So what I'm showing you here is my watercolor palette. As you can see, it has those little small containers with tops on each side. Highly recommend those. I absolutely love them for my calligraphy mixtures. So if I need to thicken up black ink, I'll add in a little bit of acrylic paint, or if I need to dilute something down, I'll add in a little bit of water. So like if I mess up, if I add too much water, it won't ruin my entire tub of ink. I love those little containers, and the tops go on really tightly and your ink lasts. I also get asked a lot what supplies I would recommend for beginners, and I think this is hard because I think when you're beginning modern calligraphy, it's like a trial and error period. As you can see, I've tried a ton of inks and only a couple work, you know what I'm saying? So a really great supply that you could bring is patience and a positive attitude, because this is a kind of hard thing to do. Different people like different things, just like with any other hobby. Some things are going to work for you that don't work for others, and then some things are going to work for others that don't work for you. So I would recommend some practice paper. I just use a regular sketchbook for practice paper, and I do have a little bit of bleeding on that paper, but since it's just practice, I don't care as much. And then if you want to get a nicer paper, I would recommend the smooth Bristol paper. Like I said before, that one's my favorite and it just works really well for me. When I was a beginner, I didn't worry very much about, my letters being perfect. I didn't worry about baselines. I didn't worry about guidelines. I just worried about learning how to hit those downstrokes with thickness and then get back up to that thin point. I just wanted to learn how to make that pen and that ink function for me. The supplies that I just mentioned, my favorite supplies, those are the things that have always worked for me. So those are the things that I would recommend to beginners, because when I first started, right off the bat, they worked great for me, and they put me in a place where I could practice and not get frustrated, because it's very frustrating when you're trying to practice and like your ink won't flow through your nib, or you have a bunch of pooling. During your experimentation process, which I think everybody needs one at the beginning of calligraphy, because you have to find the ink that works for you, the paper that you prefer, the nibs and the pens that work for you. Okay, so I think that a positive attitude through that process of experimentation will allow you to keep going. You know what I'm saying? Other beginner tools that I think would be helpful are, the ruler, the light pencils, so that you can erase everything and it looks nice, and you can set up those guidelines. Graph paper or grid paper, and then they also have paper which you can find and download online, and it has slant lines for you. So I'll look for one of those and I'll link them in the description box, even though admittedly I've never used one in my life. But I think that if you want to do things the right way, which I wasn't particularly into that when I started calligraphy. I didn't care about doing things the right way. That the graph paper, grid paper with the slants, I think that will really help you learn the right way to do things. So I would recommend that. But other than that, I would recommend really going out and being willing to spend a little bit of money on multiple packs of nibs, a couple different inks, so that you can find what works best for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, it took me a little while. The first ink that I got was horrible. And I also think another thing that might help beginners, this is where I came from. I had already been doing faux calligraphy. So I was just using a plain, art pen and creating faux calligraphy. If you don't know how to do that, I did teach that in my chalk art video, which I will put in a card. It will pop up like right here. So since I already knew how to do faux calligraphy, I think that gave me an advantage. I knew where the downstrokes were. I knew what I was looking for as far as lettering went. So practicing lettering in any form, I think, is something that would be helpful to beginner calligraphers. I also get a lot of questions/comments about calligraphy for lefties. So I had told a couple of you guys that I was trying to learn calligraphy with my left hand, and I think that is a bust. Like, I could not do it. Like, I spent days, honestly, trying to learn to just write with my left hand on paper with a regular pen, and I could not do it. It's better. It's about fourth grade handwriting. So I don't think that I'm going to be able to do that. But don't feel like you can't do calligraphy if you are a lefty. There is a woman who I follow on Instagram, and her name is Pieces Calligraphy, which I, of course, will link. Okay, so Pieces Calligraphy, hopefully you can see that. She has 5 left-handed calligraphy friends, and she got tips and tricks from all of them and did a series on her blog about how to do calligraphy for lefties. So I'll link that below. Obviously I'm not going to be able to give you as good tips as somebody who is actually a lefty who does calligraphy. And I also wanted to give one more shout out. Her name on Instagram, I follow her on Instagram. Her name is Ren Made Calligraphy. So I'll put that on the screen, and then I'll also link that for you guys below. She does amazing calligraphy. I love her style. Absolutely love her style. And she's a lefty. So it can be done. You can make it happen. Hopefully that will help you guys. All right, so the next question that I've got is, do I use any other mediums to practice calligraphy? In the past, I have used a watercolor brush and just your basic watercolors, and that's for a more brush calligraphy style, which I'm actually obsessed with brush calligraphy right now. I have drifted away from my dip pen, and I'm really, really, really enjoying brush calligraphy. For that right now, I'm using the Tombow markers. They're a dual-ended brush marker. So one side is great for brush calligraphy, and then the other side is just like a thin tip, basic fine point marker, and I really like having the combination of those together. Another thing that I really like about the Tombow markers is that you can blend them together and mix and match your colors to either get like an ombre effect or a completely new color altogether. So that's really fun. And the way that you do that is to use a blending palette. Tombow sells a blending palette. It's just like basically a little plastic sheet. I haven't purchased that, so I just use a sandwich bag. So all you have to do is get the ink out of the marker by just writing on it with a sandwich bag. And then you take your other marker that you want to blend with that, and then you rub that directly on top of the ink that you just laid down. And then you just proceed on to writing. And it gives you either a really cool blend effect or a completely new color, as I said. And the other thing that is really cool about these markers is that they are self-cleaning markers. So when you blend them, it doesn't ruin the marker. So even if you mix like a dark blue and a yellow or a really dark pink color with a peach like I'm doing here, your marker will clean itself. Like the tip will come completely clean and it will go back to that natural color that it started. So that is a really fantastic quality in these markers. It's very unique and I absolutely love it. You can see me use them in my new series. I just posted a video. The series is called Calligraphy with Me and I used those in that. So if you want to see how those work more, then you can check that out. The other marker that I'm really enjoying right now, I'm not as good with it yet, but it's the Pentel Sign brush, and it's the one with the flexible nib. So if you see right there, the SKU number is towards the end of the pen. So if you just search for that number, then you can get that pen. And I'm really enjoying that right now. It really helps you get a look like you've used a dip pen. It's not exactly the same. It's clearly a marker. It doesn't have that raised effect that you get when you use a dip pen. You can get those really, really skinny lines, and then the width of the thicker lines is about the same as with a dip pen. So I'm really enjoying that lately. So those are my favorite mediums to use other than the dip pen and the ink. And actually, I wanted to say really quickly about the Tombow markers. I don't love using them on Bristol paper. I actually prefer just like your basic heavier weight cardstock, and I just get the Staples brand, and I think it works really well. I find that with the Bristol paper, I think because it's got like a nice smooth coating, it's almost like they can't get into the paper and the ink can't sink in how it really needs to. And I also want to say about using markers for brush calligraphy, the feeling is different. It's not the same as using a dip pen. It is a different thing, but you get the same effect. And one thing about the markers is they're a lot easier to use. It's just a lot easier to get started with the markers. Where do I purchase my supplies? That has got to be my second most frequently asked question. Initially, I was just impulse buying, like I wanted it now, I didn't want to wait, and so I was just going to my local craft stores, which would be Michael's and AC Moore. I also have a art college near me. Their art supply store has a lot more calligraphy supplies. That's called Plaza Art. I think there's like 4 to 6 in the United States total, so if you're lucky enough to have one of those near you, I would absolutely recommend going there. Basic craft supply store like Michael's, they don't have as many calligraphy supplies, but there are some options there. If you can wait, if you're not being impulsive and like I have to have this right now, like I was, I recommend Amazon. You can get every supply under the sun at Amazon. The next question that I thought that would be useful to answer was, where do I get my inspiration? Words themselves inspire me a lot. The words that I'm writing and the shape that I have to write them in. So whether it's a small little square that I define myself, or, the entire piece of paper that I'm working on, I really am inspired by how I can fit words into different shapes. Aside from that, the words themselves really inspire me. I love words. I love reading. I love the brilliance of other people and their words. And then other calligraphers really inspire me. So like I mentioned before, Ren Made Calligraphy, I absolutely love her. And I totally, absolutely, 100% have a calligraphy crush on Amanda R. Neal. I found her on Instagram, so of course I will link her in this video, in my cards. I will link her everywhere that I can. There's something so unique and special, I think, about what she does, and I don't think that she follows the rules, and I think that that's awesome. Check out Amanda R. Neal's work. I honestly think there's nothing like it. Like, I'm madly in love. So if you go to my Instagram, which is new, and I'd love for you to follow me there, it's at Carter Sams, no spaces or anything, just Carter Sams. But if you go on my Instagram and then look who I'm following, you can see all of the calligraphers that inspire me. I also get a question, what pen should I use to practice? I get that question a lot. Whatever is working for you, whatever feels good, whatever feels right. If you're using a pen that's constantly frustrating you, go find another one, you know? If modern calligraphy with a dip pen isn't working for you right now, just grab a regular pen and start doing faux calligraphy. Any kind of practice with handwriting, with lettering, is going to help you develop an eye for what letters look good together, for what kind of spacing you like, for if you like when things hit the baseline, or if you like when they're kind of, you know, one goes below, one dips below, and one's a little bit higher. When you learn those things, it's going to help you with your modern calligraphy practice as a whole. So I would say use the pen that works best for you always. So whatever nib makes your ink flow the best and you have success, that's the one I recommend you using. If you're just getting really, really frustrated, you know, take a break, try a different pen, try something else out, because that's not going to get you anywhere. You guys have also been asking me a lot lately if there's some kind of template or guide that I've created that you can follow, or something that I've used in the past that you guys can trace. I do have the ability to get my calligraphy on my computer. I do know how to do that, and I could make a guide for you guys. So if you would like that, if that's something that you want, make sure that you let me know in the comments below. I do want to address a concern that I have for you guys, though. I know that some people, they kind of just do their own thing when it comes to art, and then some people really want to know the correct, traditional, right way to do it. So, like I've said many times, I'm self-taught. I'm not a professional. I cannot give you guys the absolute right, correct way to do these letters. If I write something out, you know, all the letters of the alphabet for you guys to trace to practice, the shapes could be technically not traditionally correct as far as a professional calligrapher would see it. You know what I'm saying? So that's my hesitation, but maybe I can do one for the people who aren't as serious about that and they just want to, you know, do their own thing. Let me know what your opinion about that is, or if you want that. You know what I'm saying? Let me know your thoughts about having a guide. We'll talk about that. Currently, my scanner is broken, and I need a scanner to get the letters onto my computer. So if I did do that, it would be a little while because I have to get a new scanner first. I just don't want to run out and get one, to be honest. But yeah, so it would be a while. But let me know your thoughts on that so that we can kind of collaborate and decide if that's something that we want to do as a group of calligraphy friends. Another question that I get a lot is how long have I been doing calligraphy and how many fonts that I have. I think it's been almost a year. Like, we're really close to a year, maybe just shy. And then along with that question, people ask me how many fonts do I have. Basically, the font that you guys see me writing in is my handwriting. I have a capital font that I like to use, and then I have a cursive font that I like to use. And within those, I switch the letters up a little bit here and there, but pretty much basically just two fonts. One cursive, one print, all caps. So those are all the questions that I have for you guys today. If you have any questions that I didn't answer, or you want to ask me more questions, make sure you do so in the comments below and I can do a round 2. Thank you guys so much for watching. It was really fun talking to you today. I can't wait until the next time I see you. Please subscribe, leave any requests for videos in the comments section down below. So have fun practicing your calligraphy, guys. I hope that you found this helpful, and I will see you next time. Bye!